Today, I want to talk to you about the fear of failure. So, it's one of those subjects which many people ask me to speak about. And in fact, on the comments yesterday, someone said, I fear failure. So, I think it's one of those things we should really put our attention to today and learn how we can get our mind on track. So, let me tell you a little bit about fear of failure, because I had a lot of it. I had a lot of fear and I had a lot of failure over the years. But it doesn't have to stop us. It doesn't have to stop us. If I stopped at my first failures, I would definitely not be here right now speaking to you. So it's one of those things that we can overcome, and it's about getting a different shift in our perception of what fear is. So the fear of failure. When we fear failure, we're expecting, or at least considering, in the forefront of our mind of what might happen. So it could be the fear of being rejected, the fear of not hitting our goal, the fear of looking silly in front of people. It's all the things that we don't want to happen. Now, the biology behind this, or the psychology behind this is, and I mentioned this yesterday, that way back in the day, generations before us, generations and generations and generations before us, what would usually happen is we'd have to look out for all the things around the corner. Different tribes, different animals, weather, you name it. We had to watch out for these things. We had to have fear in our life to actually survive. We had to think what might happen. What if we don't get the food? And the nature of that fear kept us alive. And it kept all the generations before us alive up to this point right now. So to a point, we can be thankful for having had that in our past, because if not, we'd have gone into silly situations and got hurt, died, you name it. We may have died out by now. But I think that the fear of failure has to significantly change, because we're now associating it to things which are not about life or death. Fear of failure or fear of success, fear of fill in the blank is not, I don't think on the whole, is not appropriate for us, or at the very least, because I think it's always good to be prepared, by the way. Always be prepared. But I like to be prepared in a positive way, so we do not get stuck in the moment, or even worse than that, and I'm sure you know this, it's one of those things where if we have that fear of failure, we just won't do it. We won't do the thing that we want to do because it paralyzes us. We think about all those things which might happen. And that is what I really want to talk about. And as I said, I want to just touch upon the reason as to why we have that. It is a protective mechanism. So you could say the intention, not the behavior or the mindset of it, the mentality of it. That's terrible. We hate that. We don't want that at all. But the intention behind the fear of failure is protection. It is here to try, and I'm saying try because it doesn't really always work, is trying to keep us safe. It's trying to not go into situations because we want to move away from pain. You see, if we fail at something, so in reality, say for example, we do fail at something, we experience emotional pain, and that pain can vary from many things, different emotions, sadness, anger, guilt, hurt, frustration, any negative emotion which can come from those situations. So when we have a past failure, because that's where it really comes from, we have one experience of being rejected, failing, not hitting our goal, looking silly, all those kind of things. And then that becomes our memory at an unconscious level. So every time you think about going into a new situation, unconsciously, your brain is looking for things similar to that situation which happened in the past. And if for example, the thing which is similar and you did it well, you won't have fear of failure because your brain's going from the past. And actually, this is okay. We got this situation because you know you're good at it. You know you're going to succeed in it. But if your brain tracks back when it comes to that type of situation, it will then remember the negative situations and then stop you in your tracks when it comes to whatever the thing you're fearing. Now, that fear, like I said, is a protection mechanism. It's usually because of a bad experience. We hallucinate what all the things which could happen, which is not very positive at all, but that's what we do, is how our mind is hooked up and synced up to watch out for those things. So what we have to really do is connect with our unconscious mind. Connect with it and go, look, I want you, the unconscious mind, to do something different, to be safer than this present situation, because it's trying to keep you safe, but it's just not doing it very well. So our job is to reconnect with ourselves and to get what we really want out of life and to thrive in situations. And one of the things that I like to do is look at people who have gone through failures but still kept on going and achieved massive success. I promise you, if you read entrepreneur autobiographies like Richard Branson or many people out there, entrepreneurs, and also people who have made big differences in their life and to society and in the world, you see that they had so many so-called failures. But I've noticed that their mentality does not quite understand what failure is. And compared to most people in the world, like me and you, we go into a situation and then we may fail and then suddenly we're like, that's it, I give up. I'm not doing anything. I'm stopping here, never going into that situation. But their psychology is different and it's a different perspective. And when I began to learn this and practice it and think this way consciously, my whole body became in sync with this idea. Now, the simple idea is that there is nothing such as failure. What we have to do is consider that if failure did not exist, we have to then see the learnings. You see, there's no such thing as failure, just learnings of what not to do, or to adjust, or to be adaptable. And when you think about it this way, we are surviving and thriving in this world because over the years, our system, our biological system, has adapted to this environment. It is flexible in biology to adapt to certain diseases, to different species, to the weather, the climate, the environment. Your body has had to adapt over the years, over the generations to be safe. Now that is a great mentality to have, that it's always adjusting, always learning, and always growing. It's adapting to every situation. And when I consider, if I'm going for a big goal and something happens, and I get stuck, or I get this so-called failure, it didn't actually happen. It didn't happen how I wanted it to be, and people name that and label it failure. Then when that happens in my life, what I ask myself is, well, what can I learn from this? So every time I'm in a situation where something doesn't go my way, I ask myself, what can I learn? In fact, you should say that sentence all the time. In the good times, the bad times, in every time. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Which once learned from will allow me to be better in the future. Because the nature of doing so, and here's the reason why. If you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Learnings will keep you safer. Learnings are about growing. Learnings are about getting better. It's about growing as a person. So when you ask that question, and by the way, when you ask that question, you're not just asking yourself, you're asking your unconscious mind, which is the thing which is holding you back when it comes to the fear of failure. So when we ask, what can I learn from this? Your unconscious mind begins to absorb that learning as well. So That learning, or that set of learnings, will keep you safe instead. That is the key. Rather the emotional reaction to fear of failure or fear of success, fear of fill in the blank, we begin to ask ourselves, what can we learn from this? And that learning becomes the new protection mechanism. That is the thing which allows you to grow and go beyond your comfort zone. And I'm going to give you a few tips of how to do that very soon, but it's important to get the mentality right. If I could do anything, I would just take out the fear of failure, that whole sentence, fear of whatever, unless it could hurt you. I mean, because you don't want to go up to certain animals, like go up to lions or anything. That's important to not have, or it's important to have that fear. But there is that level of if it's appropriate or inappropriate, warranted or unwarranted. And we've got to just kind of wipe that out of our vocabulary and go, look, there is no such thing as failure. There is only feedback. There's only learnings. You see, when you start to have that mentality, you start to become flexible. When you have that behavioral flexibility, you can go into many different situations. And if it doesn't go your way, it's okay because you adjust to it. And I'm saying it very oversimplified, but we have to practice that in our mind. There is no such thing as failure. There are only learnings. The learnings will keep me safe. So when you go into a situation and it's not looking good, you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? And it's instantly going to take you away from what might happen. It will instantly take you out of the mindset of the negative associations, fears, worries, and all those type of things, because you're asking a set of different questions. When we ask ourselves different questions, we get different answers. But the problem is we usually ask the same questions. Why am I always like this? Your unconscious mind searches for all the reasons as to why you are like this. If you have that fear of failure, your unconscious mind looks for all those past failures and then goes, that's why we should be fearing failure, because it doesn't know any different. And ultimately, it's responding to the question that you're asking. The thought that you're having in your mind, the feeling that you're having about fear of failure is actually increasing and even multiplying in many cases the exact same issue. But the day you start to ask yourself a different question, how can I be different? What can I learn from this? You get a different set of answers. I mean, you ask yourself inside, if you go, why do I fear failure? You'll come up with all the reasons in the world as to why you should fear failure. But that's not going to help. Instead, we ask ourselves, now if you do this yourself right now, how can I be different? Or what can I learn from this? Your mind is focused in a different direction. It's looking for other answers. It's looking for new strategies of being flexible. When we do that, we will start to make huge leaps. Do it every day. In the good times, the bad times, the indifferent times, the challenging times, the fear of failure times, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What actually has to happen? And ask yourself, there's no such thing as failure, there's only learnings. So what can I learn from this? If you do that, and it becomes your mantra, the feeling of fear will start to disappear. It will not straight away, but it will get less and less and less. And it's all about communicating with yourself differently, speaking in a different way, asking different questions, which means you get different responses. Now, what I've researched, the next part is what I've researched when it comes to sales. Now, I'm not a salesperson, but I do know about language and communication, because obviously hypnosis is about communicating effectively. But when I've worked or in like groups with salespeople, you see the difference between the good salespeople and the ones who aren't making it. The ones who are in that scarcity mindset. They're doing everything they can to convince that one person to buy from them. They almost spend all their day trying to convince the one person who does not want that product. that does not want that service. So that salesman keeps on going and going and going, trying to tell them that this is why you should get the product. And it doesn't get them anywhere. Sometimes you can wear them down, I'm sure, but more often than not, the amount of time they're investing in trying to convince people of the sale is not very successful. But here's what we can learn from the good salespeople when it comes to the fear of failure, or the fear of success, or whatever it may be. The good salespeople actually look for the people, or they don't look for this, but every time they get a no, they then go to the next person. They realize they can't convince them and they go right to the next person. If that person doesn't want someone, they go to the next person. And they keep going and going and going until they get the yes. So they'll go through, the best salespeople will go for 100 no's very quickly to get the yes in a shorter period of time than the person is trying to take the one person trying to convince them. So why am I saying this? Well, at the end of the day, you are going to go through failures. So-called failures. As I said, there's no such thing, but you get the drift. The old idea, the old label of failures. We're going to go through those type of experiences. And you know what? That is okay. It is okay. It is okay to go in those situations. It's okay to fail. Do you know what? It's okay to look stupid. Sometimes my videos, when I try to do it in one take, but it doesn't always work, and I keep in the ones where I'm looking silly sometimes because it's okay. And if you know me, guys, I'm speaking in front of quite a few people, and you hear me trip up on my words. You hear me say things wrong, but yes, I'm trying to learn from it. But if I mess up on my words, does it mean I should give up? If I go and put something out there and someone tells me that, and this happens, by the way, if you look at some of my reviews sometimes, they go, do you know what? I hate this person's voice. I hate the way he looks. I hate whatever it is. And they can be very mean, which would be a perceived failure of looking silly or stupid. But do you know what? If I went into that situation and took it on as truth, then I would not be doing this right now. I really wouldn't. But instead, I realize in that situation, that's okay. I don't need everyone to like my work because there's many great people out there. And I want the right people. I want you guys, I'm sure if you're sticking with me for 20 minutes now, I want people like you. You're my yeses because you're taking this on and you're learning from it. If people don't like me, I'm not going to allow that fear to stop my message and to stop my ideas and putting out there. If something goes wrong in my business, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to realize it happens. So embrace that it happens. Embrace that things happen in your life and it's not going to go in your favor all the time. But do you know what can be in your favor? Learnings. And what is life about? Learning. We go to school, we learn. We go for experiences, we learn. You're watching this right now because you want to learn in some way. You invest money in hypnosis or my courses or training seminars, whatever it may be, because you want to learn. So we have to take that mentality to learnings. We have to get that idea in our mind that there is no such thing as failure. Things will happen. It won't always go away. Things will feel like a block in our road, but do you know what? If I keep on learning, I will find a way to get to where I want to be. And that is really what we have to do. It is a mentality shift. It's a shift in our awareness that we have to consciously do. If we do it consciously, guess what listens? Your unconscious mind. Asking different questions will get different results. So asking yourself, what can I learn from this situation? Whether it's happening in that moment, or even if you have the fear of failure about doing something in the future, you just ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I be different? Hallucinate how you want to be, and you will feel better. Now, the other idea is, usually fear of failure can happen and become in our existence or in our awareness because we have big goals. Who has a big goal here right now? Put your hands up if you can do that watching at home. If you can just consider that, I'm sure you may have some big goals. Now, if you have big goals, you have a greater, usually, fear of failing. The higher you climb, the mentality, the harder you fall. And that can happen. So what do we do to be able to take away the sting of the fear? Well, we break things down. We have to realize that it's not about making the big leap or hitting the big goal straight away, because when you do that, you will start to doubt yourself. When I work with people and speak to people, I'm not always telling them to go for the big goal. And it sounds weird, because sometimes when my clients say, I really want this big goal, but I'm fearful of it. Then I go, well, what goal could you set today which wouldn't make you fearful, but would make you move forward toward that big goal? Now, what happens there causes our brain to make the goal smaller, still having the goal in mind, but we're breaking it down into smaller pieces that if we succeed in the first step, what does that do? It builds belief. Then we go for the bigger goal, the slightly bigger goal, and we succeed in that. We learn, we get more belief. And then we go up to the bigger level, we achieve that, we learn, we grow, we adapt, we get more belief. And we start to go up this ladder of belief and the ladder of success. And what that does, it allows you to achieve still the big goal, but you're taking away all self-sabotage of the fear of failure or the fear of achieving that success. Because in the beginning it was too much of a bigger leap. So we have to break it down into smaller pieces with the mentality of learning. What can I learn from this? Asking different questions, all the things I've been saying. But we have to break things down. And as I said, when it comes to the salespeople, they embrace the no's and they look for the yeses. For every no they get, they go, great, that's one more person I don't have to speak to who doesn't want my product. I'm going to go to the next person who does want my product. And they keep on going, and that's where they get the sales. They don't waste time in the no. In other words, they don't waste time in the failure. They keep on adapting and growing. Now, the final thing I want to say about this, which is really important, that the fear of failure, the fear of worries or doubts or whatever it may be for you, the fear is far less than it ever will be compared to the fear and the worry and the regret of not going for what you want. You see, if you stay within your comfort zone, you will, over the weeks, the years, and so on, will build up this regret for life. And it doesn't matter when you start, by the way. You could just start today and you're 80 years old. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter about age. This is about starting. It's about doing something. But the fear of going for your goal is far less than it's going to be compared to the guilt, the regret of not going for it. And we have to make that distinction. We must wake up to the fact that we have to seize the day. We have to do whatever it takes. We've got to hustle away. We've got to learn. We've got to grow, because the lifetime of regret is so much worse than the initial fear. Because here's the thing, if you go for your goal, yes, you'll experience some fear. Yes, you'll experience maybe some worries at first. Yes, you may even experience some doubts and all those things. But that fear will go having gone for your goal. Once you do something, you learn and grow, and that fear gets less and less. But the less that you do and you stay in your comfort zone, do you know what? Your comfort zone is actually very uncomfortable. It really is. Sometimes we think it's more comfortable, but really that lifetime of regret, the comfort zone, what we've been accustomed to, is not very pleasurable. It doesn't make us feel good. Usually we can tell ourselves lies that it does because we don't want to go beyond our comfort zone or go to the edge of it. But We have to really start to see things differently. We have to embrace that sometimes there'll be failures. Things won't always go away, but there is no such thing as failure, so let's take that label out of our mind and see it as an opportunity. Here's the thing, see it as an opportunity to grow at the very least. Even looking silly is an opportunity to grow. Failing, so-called failing, or so-called not succeeding straight away is really an opportunity. And it's okay. It's okay if you can't see the end goal, because you know what? When plants are growing, when the seed is growing, they are in darkness. They can't see what's going, but they have this intuition, this biology, which causes them to climb and break through the soil into the light. And we have to take that mentality no matter what we're going through right now, no matter what's happening in our life. We have to break through by just keep on going forward, putting our attention where it needs to be. And that is on, what can I learn from this? How can I be different? There is no such thing as failure. And the more blockages that I go through, the more obstacles which are coming my way, is an opportunity to get closer to my goal, whilst also breaking down into smaller steps, which gives more belief and more momentum in achieving your goals and letting go of the fear of failure. That's it, guys. That's what we have to do. And no matter how much we may fear failure, the emotion that you may be feeling around that, or the fear of success, or fear of looking silly, no matter how much we're experiencing right now, just be conscious of those, I think it was 3 tips in total, which I've just been talking about. Keep that in mind. There's no such thing as failure. Number 2, what can I learn from this? Number 3, embrace that things happen, because if you do, like the salesperson, you're going through the no's. Things will happen and it'll get you closer to the yes. So in this analogy, change no to failure and then skip past the failures, go through those, because you're going to get closer to the yes, which is success. That's what we have to do. Learn and grow. So I hope you enjoy that. If you did enjoy this video, I like to go ahead on Periscope and just share it. And on Facebook, I'd like you to share it too. It just means there could be someone in your life who is actually not telling you this, and they're suffering in silence. Sometimes by just sharing something like this could be the wake-up call, the mentality shift, the support, where it be this video, but I get a bit of curiosity over it, and then they kind of stay tuned and they get the video that they want. Whatever it is, you might be doing someone in your life the greatest favor by doing so. So if you could share it, it just means we can help. These are all free. So if you could do that, that'd be great, because I think sometimes there's people out there suffering in silence, and I don't want them to be in silence. And if they're in silence, they can at least watch this, listen to it, apply it, and see how it works. So if you can do that, guys, that'd be absolutely wonderful of you, and it just means together we're working as a team. So I hope you enjoyed that today.